Welcome back to Holiday Hot Takes, the final episode. Thank you everyone for tuning in thus far. If you've been wondering, where is my comment? Well, the truth is, I did have to skip over some of them. But this episode is pretty much all hot stuff, and you might have noticed that we've been missing on a chunk of very similar comments. So I'm going to be reading quite a few of them at a time and then responding. So buckle up. Remember, these are opinions, and it's okay to disagree, but let's just jump into them. Steven Tan 2754. Hot take, there's a lot of ingrates in the Nerf community, not naming names. Yup. Are you talking about me? My own video. This is obviously very vague, but yes, sometimes you need to be reminded to be grateful and thankful for what already exists. I need a reminder too sometimes. Tim Haven J8355. Hot take, we got what we wanted and now I don't want it. With Pro-Line blasters on shelves, we aren't on the hunt for that rare blaster at thrift stores, taking the time to do the modding to make them hit high FPS and fun paint jobs to show how proud we are of our work. I disagree with some of this. Some people are exclusively like thrifters. They will go to the stores, they will explicitly wait for some of these new blasters to hit thrifting shelves, even if they weren't released like on store shelves. That first part's very interesting though, so let's continue. Out of Ideas 9977, it's our fault as to why blasters nowadays are boring. Yikes. Back in the day, we watched reviews from Coop and some other people, and they would push this narrative that if something didn't fire above 70 FPS, besides some pistols, we would consider them to be junk blasters, even if they had some unique gimmicks. Nerf seemed to realize this and they just stopped making gimmicky blasters after 2018-2019. Even then, stuff was getting unoriginal. And here we are today complaining about the fact that stuff is unoriginal when we caused this. Wow, blaming reviewers like Coop and blaming the consumers is a wild take, but you know, you can do that. Just because the hobbyists say, we don't like this, that's not what really moves the needle. Like yeah, Coop may have had a sway, I don't know how much of a sway on like what people bought outside of the hobby too, but Nerf pays attention to some different numbers overall when it comes to significant changes. Maybe they pay attention to hobbyists like us when it comes to making a pro line, or they pay attention to when the competition finally does it, and then they're like, okay, well now we should probably respond. But I still think we have gotten gimmicky blasters all through this time. It's just that you hear more about the other stuff, or more people talk about the other stuff, and it overshadows what is still being released. Skinny Scouter, on-shelf pro-level blasters are killing the modding hobby. Here we go. FTF Supremacy Roblox. The ever-growing pro-grade market makes modding toy-grade blasters pretty much entirely useless. Getting hot in here. Seth the Nerfer. I feel like modding has gone to the wayside compared to the earlier days of the hobby. It's quite rare I see a modded Longshot or Big Bad Bow anymore. It's usually the same mix of 3D printed blasters, especially in the 200 FPS plus range, and it upsets me a bit because I feel like we've strayed away from our roots. And Strong Arm 11, very hot take. Nerf modding is overrated and kind of pointless. Wow. The modding takes come out. Modding is dead, guys. I hate to say it, but all the new stuff on store shelves has made modding completely obsolete, and we don't need it anymore. Let's continue. Huge hot take from gosh dang it, Microsoft is dumb 8699. Love it. People who buy 20 of the same gun only to do slight mods when there is already a gun that does exactly what they want tend to tick me off. Okay, so basically, why buy Blaster X and mod it when Blaster Y exists? Well, I got an answer for all this, guys. Why do people still mod? Good news, because they can. Because it's fun, because the thrill of pushing things to its limits or doing something that a blaster wasn't designed to do is just fun. And that's never gonna go away. Modding is just an art. It's a craft to some people. It's more interesting than the performance of the blaster sometimes. There are a lot of games where you can take blasters to, but you don't need a game to mod. And I think that's why modding content took over the scene back in the day, because you could go out and buy this blaster and then you found like Lord Draconical made a little mod guide, Bobolo made a mod guide, Nerfomania, and it's like, oh my gosh, all these people are tinkering with their stuff, I want to do that too. And it appeals to a certain person with a STEM focused interest, and it's just never going to die. And some people will still make stuff from the ground up, and some people are totally fine with buying a blaster off store shelves and never opening it. But the truth is, no matter what gets released next, whether it's a pro blaster or a super underpowered blaster, people are going to open it up and tinker with it. Hissinger889, the influx of so many cheap store-bought blasters has made this less of a hobby and more consumerism for me. I have lost the drive to go out and make my own unique blaster because I can go to Wally World and buy something that will perform just as good for half the price. And I think that's where priorities become a little bit more important. It used to be the case, yeah, you could collect almost every new release. Now there's no way you can do that. But also, prices are all over the place. There's some things that are super cheap and affordable, and there's other stuff where, oh my gosh, I'm dropping hundreds of dollars on this one thing. So now it's forced people to kind of prioritize what you really want to do in this hobby. Do you want to just tinker and stuff? You can go to thrift stores and risk it and, get some stuff for super cheap. You can buy stuff off of store shelves, online. You can bring that to games, or you can just focus on bringing it home and modding. Make something that's a really cool, unique piece, and that's going to probably take some time, but it's also not necessarily going to cost you a lot if you know what you're looking for. Joaquin8233, the general online community gets too cynical and negative about change. Old school modding isn't dead, 200 FPS on store shelves isn't bad. Real. Very true. And that's also important to know, is that sometimes we just see something online, you read something and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's the truth, that's it. Modding is dead because I haven't seen it for a while. But at the same time, we know modding isn't dead. People talk about modding all the time. There are plenty of mod channels that exist. It's just there's so much other stuff that you might see first, and you will forget that modding has always been a part of the modding community. Now, I will say 200 FPS or higher on store shelves, and even gel, like for Nerf and other similar companies, I just wonder if that should be in the toy section. I don't have a problem with that being on store shelves. I just wonder if at a certain point, should we move it to the sporting goods section or something, just for safety purposes? I mean, I obviously am responsible enough adults. I know that, but a younger one, do they know? Do their parents know? Austinite2684. Everyone complaining about pro blaster fatigue is the same as the people who complain about only wanting pro blasters. We're currently spoiled for choice both ways, and that's a good problem to have. And Wizard Builds 207. Off-the-shelf pro blasters are boring. Most of them are just remakes of what came out a couple of years before. Just because it hits 150 plus FPS doesn't mean it can't be a creative and gimmicky design. It might be boring for people who just want something new, or they're just thinking about something different. Maybe they don't even know what that different thing is. I want a gimmick, but I want you to tell me what the gimmick is. So it's hard for people to really narrow down on what their definition of new is that'll make them happy. We shouldn't complain too much if something's on the store shelves and it's usable. I know I've talked about this up to a certain point because this is the last episode. If every company makes the same type of blaster and they're all on store shelves or all available at the same time, then that's a good thing because now you have options and you can weigh the options between the different blasters and make the best informed purchase decision. And at a certain point, if everyone keeps doing the exact same thing, then it definitely gets stale. But I don't think we're completely at that point. I think every company has enough diversity in their products that you can find something that's a little bit different. There are still things that, yes, I would love to see other companies try to tackle, maybe some ideas that they tried a decade ago, and you're like, well, what if they did this? But I maintain that options between similar offerings is a good thing. Lightning Eagle 14. PVC homemades are a good entry point to blaster modding. Cheap, basic tools vastly outperforms stock stuff. For performance, maybe. Yes, I think there's still something fun about those old school PVC homemades. But for an entry point, I'm not so sure. I think it's a little bit easier to just buy something off the store shelf and then modify it. There are some good choices and there are some very bad choices. And as long as you know which ones those are, it can be a very seamless entry point. And I think for some people, modifying from the ground up, literally making a homemade, is a task that's way too arduous and is going to very much discourage them from seeking out any more Nerf related modding activities. But for some people, yeah, that's the kind of building and creation that they want to do. Seth's Nerf Fun. Remember when blasters being put together into something crazy was the coolest thing? Now we just hop on a computer and do it there. And I can't remember the last time I saw a real integration. I mean, this is kind of wild to me because they're definitely out there, but again, I kind of understand it because we've just seen so much more of like, hey, 3D printed blaster, new blaster from Hasbro, X-Shot, and it's like underneath all of it, people are still making some really cool integrations. People are able to make their own designs a little bit more quickly. They're able to modify existing stuff a little bit more quickly. Merge Masters hasn't gone away. In fact, it just came back and they've had this whole competition. So if you know where to look, it's still happening. And if you go to an event, there are still people with some really crazy builds that aren't just 3D printed. Some people are still putting some great work and a lot of hours into these builds. And as we keep seeing releases of new stuff, the integration material is only going to expand and people are only going to have more to work with. Jonathan Barry, NK4FZ. Jank modding is the best modding. Maybe this is actually a cold take for the list. What am I supposed to add to this? It's perfect. BL00193, Gavin Face. Everyone actually agrees that low FPS is fun. The real hot take is that high FPS is fun. So what in the gaslighting? Is that? No. That's... in this day and age, in the year of our Lord 2024 going on 2025, I think any FPS can be fun, but also if high FPS being fun is a hot take, then why are we seeing a huge increase in like 200 plus FPS games? And yeah, I'm not following this one. Shades Temple. I think the high FPS chase is becoming a problem. I feel like it's making the overall hobby less casual and more like paintball. And Alex IP 16399, high performance brand name blasters, DZ Pro, Nerf Pro, X-Shot Pro, etc. have created a division in blaster communities between tinkerers and players. I have noticed a much larger flow of check out what I bought posts in lieu of check out what I made posts. In the past, those who wanted to play at high FPS also needed to know how to mod, but now modding has become optional, though I will acknowledge the lower barrier of entry that these blasters have brought to the hobby. And this is the trade-off. Do we want more people to be able to play high FPS games, say, or are we saying that a little gatekeeping or just proof of knowledge is necessary? Because I do want more people to be able to play, but I do agree that, yeah, when someone shows up for the first time and is like, oh, yeah, well, I just spent, $500 on my brand new loadout, and this is my first Nerf blaster ever, and you're like, whoa, okay, I mean, I'm glad that you're able to play. I don't even know if you needed to do that, though. If you really want that particular product, then by all means, and if you have the money for it, great. But does that also speak to, like, is this a rich kid's hobby? We don't want that to be a rich kid's hobby. We've kind of identified before that Nerf is great because it's an easy access point and anyone can get in for kind of any price. And nowadays it does feel like sometimes, not all the time, sometimes people who are willing to drop like thousands of dollars on this hobby are the ones that show up with stuff that you just like can't compete with. Is that the future of this hobby? I hope not. And that might be true as people chase higher FPS numbers at these high performance events. Low FPS events, I mean, some people still spend a lot of money on blasters that have a crazy rate of fire and are incredibly reliable and just look a certain way. But I think, yes, some of these hobby events that have a higher FPS cap are where you're seeing some of these discrepancies. And I don't know exactly what the right answer is to it. Charles the Toast. Short darts and performance have been taking over the hobby and I'm sick of it and I'm tired of pretending that it's not. We need the fun back in the hobby. Did it leave though? Let's continue. The Scott player. Half darts are the only new ammo that isn't disliked by the Nerf community. Cough cough and one cough cough. Django Foam Flinger. I have never thought I'd feel blaster burnout, but ever since I got into the competitive side, I've been chasing every high-powered blaster released this year, and none of them stand up to their hyped expectations. Now I have too many high-powered blasters and need to get rid of them. And Saxperson1672, while the fast rate of which super good blasters like the Striker 2.0 are released is good for the hobby, it can sometimes be too fast, which can be hard to keep up with. Things have gone fast. A lot of new stuff. Again, we've talked about some of these things already. It's like, it's great to have options, but like, yeah, at a certain point, is it too much? Is it too much to sift through? Does that mean that we should wait and then you pick what you really want because we know at this point that more competitive offerings are going to be released? Is the fun really gone? Are half darts really the only thing people care about? I'd say obviously not. I mean, if these things weren't fun, we wouldn't be having those events, but no, I hear you. I think the hobby has become more notorious now for championing what sets us apart from general audiences, that being the high power blasters, for serious nerfers only, right? If it's low powered, then it's not serious, it's casual, and then we separate that into high performance, modders, enthusiasts, and everyone below that, can be kind of grouped together. And I don't love that. The reality might not be what you see online. What am I saying? The reality is never what you see online. But I think the online spaces can be quite vocal. And reviews from people who operate in the online spaces can also be quite vocal. Like you're hearing, oh, this is the best new Pro Blaster, this is the best new Pro Blaster, and it takes time to really figure out what is the best new blaster for you. It's going to depend on everyone a little bit differently. And just because, even if I reviewed a blaster and said, this is the best blaster ever for me, it's not going to be the best for you. Your situation, your game preferences, if you're even going to go to a game, really does matter. And you do risk feeling the blaster burnout, exactly. If you do just buy every new thing, aside from spending quite a bit of money, yeah, you'll feel like, well, why did I buy all this stuff? I think the biggest takeaway for me now, and hopefully something I can impart on others, is just wait a little bit. Be it because maybe that blaster will go on sale, it's always nice, but more truths about that blaster will be revealed, the longevity of it. Someone's going to jump in and take the plunge, and they're going to tell you, after a little bit of use, if it's still operating as intended. Or they're going to find out new stuff, and be like, whoa, you should get this because that one hidden feature that no one told you about, it takes time. And I think if you can afford to just wait a little bit, just past that little FOMO, you'll find yourself being a little bit happier. Alex Explains show, adult competitive scene needs to be better organized. Bring back Velcro tip if needed. We have the technology. It's a wide statement for better organization. I'm going to focus in on the bring back Velcro tips for 2025. I think this speaks back to the let's have a dart tag championship for 2025. Make it happen, Hasbro. Adults can take it. We can take taggers at stock speeds and even 200 plus. It's a risk we're willing to take if it means we get dart tag back. Lightning Eagle 14, pump action mag-fed springers are an overdone blaster design. Each new design is only marginally better than the previous one. And from Nefomp, pump action half-dart mag-fed springers are the FIFA of the hobby. They're all the same, but with this one new feature. Brutal, but fair. Yes, you knew that pump action springers were going to come up again at some point. Everyone talks about this, but I think it's just because the platform has proven itself for companies and designers. Everyone takes a stab at a pump action springer. It just makes sense. You can make your own comfort without completely going out of your way ergonomic wise and price wise. It's just simple. And there's still some different takes to it that companies will do. And I hate to keep repeating the same points, but yeah, if everyone competes on the same platform, eventually you'll find the one that works best for you, be it because of the price or because of the comfort or the reliability, because yes, they're not all the same reliability, or just the power. Some of these things are better at lower FPS and some are better at higher, or customizable. That's been a nice improvement. It's nice to have blasters that you can quickly spring swap and put in different barrels. That didn't used to be the case years ago, but everyone loves their pump action springer topics. All Epic 2592. Competitive Nerf is going to have the same toxic culture as Speedsoft and competitive paintball. It's going to? You mean it hasn't happened already? Mantic 3. In Nerf competitions, all prizing should go to categories like Best Sportsmanship, Best Improved, Most Unique Loadout. Placing is its own reward, and I think incentives to reduce toxic attitudes and encourage those who stand out in positive ways is important. Here's what I gotta say. I think competitive Nerf is growing, and that's really cool, but it has an identity crisis. Is it the same as casual Nerf, cool, laid back, where we should reward people by playing as the incentive? You're having fun, that's your reward. Cool, I have no problem with that. Or is this an actual competition that basically is only going to see the best players and the best gear, the best tactics rise to the top? I know some people will say, well, what do you mean? It's all of that. We can do all of that at once. I disagree. If we're going to really have competitions, we're going to see some people not happy about what happens to this hobby. You're going to see some people who really think they like competitive Nerf not want to play competitive Nerf. I think the bad news is that toxic play is already here, and it's not just relegated to competitive play, but it always comes out strong in competitive play, and anytime there's prizes there, you will see it. Granted, those will be when it comes to physical prizes and monetary, cash prizes, but it doesn't need to have like prizes for it to rear its ugly head. And I've noticed some behaviors in myself that I'm not proud of when it comes to competitions. And the things of like, being nervous for the game and whatnot, that's fine, that's part of a competition too. But I think there are some people who are looking at competitive Nerf right now in a very soft light and not seeing the reality that if competitive Nerf wants to be taken more seriously, it's gonna take some hard decisions and it's gonna take a lot of investment. If we don't want to have those kinds of competitions, then I think we need to reevaluate what a Nerf tournament looks like. When it comes to standardizing what competitive Nerf is, we are all over the place. And some people take it way more seriously already, and I think those ideas are just going to risk clashing as well. Vedran Lusev 1837, hot take, full lengths are good, bring back full lengths is not a hot take, but a majority opinion. All right, full length dart enthusiasts, this is your time. Tax consumer, playing stock or just end strike is more fun than high FPS in most cases. Bulkhead Bry, 100 FPS games is way more fun than anything above 100. If others find that fun, good for them, but I like closer engagement ranges. And Excelsior Time, hot take, darts don't need to be firing at over 120 FPS to be fun. Angling and managing distance is part of the game, and not worrying about the high impact welts is nice. I agree, but this does really challenge the question, what is fun? And everyone's definition is a little bit different. See previous conversations. The games and the context does matter. If you're at a game where 200 FPS is the cap, then you're kind of just expecting to be using something that's more powerful. And plenty of people have fun times, otherwise we wouldn't be having those games. People like those high-powered Nerf games, and as someone mentioned already, that's good for them. And it shouldn't be a problem that people can host lower power games too. I get frustrated when I see people trying to skirt the lines or using a blaster where maybe the FPS cap isn't super established for a group or an event where, they just don't totally get it. Like, it's gonna be a Nerf battle, it's a Nerf war, bring something that's gonna be fun. And people are like, but can I bring my Nexus Pro? Can I bring my Nexus Pro X? It's like, you ever heard of Rule 0? Try to follow Rule 0. If you know that much about the game, there's a good chance you're gonna do just fine with something that's just below the FPS cap, even if it's at 100 FPS. There are plenty of blasters that can spit darts plenty far. They float, it's true. You'll float too. Those darts, they just have this little arc where you can launch them pretty far, and it's also okay to not leave welts on people. We can still have fun games that aren't even using half darts. Sometimes people, I know, I'm saying this out loud and people are like, well, yeah, no duh. Some people need a little bit of a reminder because all fun can exist at the same time. Strong Arm 11, hot take, full-length darts will always be better and more fun than half-length darts. Trainwreck 79, long darts are more fun to use at high FPS than short darts. And Super Lava Gamer, I want to see more companies make pro performance full-length dart blasters. All right, so the truth about full lengths as well. Full-length darts are just more recognizable for wider audiences. Why didn't the Ace of Spades use half-lengths? Because full-lengths are just the Nerf standard for anyone that doesn't know more about Nerf. General audiences are very new to Nerf Pro, and spoiler alert, that's kind of the only thing they know about Pro. Maybe they've heard about these other companies making weird-sized darts, but they see now that Nerf's producing Pro blasters and I guess these things exist too. That's crazy. I mean, yes, I love that half-lengths can take up less space on your body, but full-lengths are really easy to, put into mags, to load. You know exactly when a full-length is jammed or how to get it out. Half-darts can sometimes really hide themselves in there. I think that full-lengths should stick around, even if Nerf has a different definition of what that full-length dart is. I think it would be a shame to lose full-length darts from Nerf or any company for that matter. So here's hoping that Nerf doesn't follow through on that promise and that they actually do keep it in certain blasters. Linker, I want even stock FPS blasters to use short darts. They are just more flexible and fun. Flexible, like you can squish full lengths a little bit more. You mean like more versatile. There are some really cool designs that people have made with half-length darts, and I can definitely see the argument there. You can, make the blaster more compact to work with half darts. I think it would be cool if Hasbro puts them into more blasters too. safety, of course, willing. And closing with Robert Myth. Gatekeeping fun is keeping the hobby from growing. There's countless different ways to interact with Nerf modding, 3D printing, even those reloading videos that were popular for a while. New enthusiasts shouldn't be pushed away from the community just because they want to enjoy Nerf in their own way. If you're having fun, you're not doing it wrong. And this, of course, summarizes a lot of my points. I feel called out because I really do hate those reloading videos, but it's true. If people find the hobby through that way, whatever the journey, it's nice to have you here. It's great that you've found some enjoyment in this, and I hope you can continue to, and I hope that you can continue to develop what you like and what you don't like, and just, spend your money appropriately, or just spend your time appropriately. Time is also money. Within reason and your local laws, yeah, having fun shouldn't be scrutinized, and I think that because our entry points into the hobby are so diverse, I've touched on this already too, just some people get very fussy when they find Nerf in not the right way. Like if you found Nerf haphazardly and now you're asking certain questions because you just didn't happen to have those answered before you found out that Nerf modding exists and this pro scene exists and there are these events that happen. You're like, oh, wait, can I use this? What about that? And you happen to use that one wrong word, people will absolutely jump down your throat. And yes, that is how you gatekeep a hobby. And as best we can, we should avoid doing that and give people time to learn. It's okay. Everyone comes from a different background. And if people really want to be a part of this hobby, they will stick with it. And if they find it's not for them, that's okay too. We don't have to keep everyone if they find that they would rather play airsoft or paintball, or they would rather go play gel. I guess that's another way. That's okay. And with that, I want to thank you all so much for watching these episodes. Thank you for your holiday hot takes. I have been through so many of these, and it has very much challenged some of my ideas, and I hope in some cases it has challenged your beliefs as well. Remember, we have a hobby full of a diverse range of people, and they all have different opinions, and it's not always a bad thing for those opinions to clash, especially if we're talking about best ways to improve our hobby and make it a little bit more accepting. Happy holidays, everyone, and I'll see you next time. I am so hot. And it's not just the hot takes. I mean, it actually finally warmed up in here. Oh my gosh, I need to take this off.